nam o systemie doradztwa zawodowego w Chorwacji, jak również organizację WBKNR z Niemiec. Tutaj Państwo mieli już możliwość usłyszeć Reinolda w zeszłym tygodniu, który opowiadał nam o systemie doradztwa zawodowego w Niemczech. Drodzy Państwo, no, zaczynamy dzisiejsze seminarium, które mam nadzieję, że będzie równie ciekawe dla Państwa jak te, które odbyło się w zeszłym tygodniu. Tutaj taka kwestia organizacyjna, napisałam na czacie do Państwa wiadomość, bardzo proszę o wybór języka. Na dole ekranu mogą Państwo znaleźć ikonę Interpretation i mają Państwo możliwość wyboru albo języka angielskiego, bądź języka polskiego, który kryje się pod skrótem PT, tak? Także nie mamy tutaj możliwości wyboru skrótu PL, jest PT, ale jak Państwo zaznaczą taką możliwość, będą Państwo słyszeli tłumaczenie w języku polskim. Drodzy Państwo, tutaj jest z nami pani Aleksandra Ciąglewicz-Wachowiak, która jest panią dyrektor Centrum Kształcenia Ustawicznego. Z pewnością będzie chciała Państwa powitać. Bardzo proszę, pani dyrektor.
Dziękuję za przedstawienie. Dzień dobry, witam wszystkich na naszym drugim webinarium projektu Karier. Myślę, że dzisiaj wysłuchamy prezentacji dotyczącej kształcenia zawodowego, znaczy doradztwa zawodowego w Chorwacji i przedstawimy nasze doświadczenia z Polski. Mam nadzieję, że te wszystkie treści, które dzisiaj usłyszymy i wiedza, którą zdobędziemy, pomoże nam w dalszej pracy w projekcie i pomoże nam rzeczywiście wypracować nowe, innowacyjne narzędzia doradztwa dla naszych uczniów i słuchaczy. Dziękuję.
Dziękuję pani dyrektor. Teraz proszę o zabranie głosu panią Annę Dukowską.
Ja również witam serdecznie. Ja bardzo się cieszę na tą naszą międzynarodową współpracę, bo to jest taki kolejny krok w Sopocie na rozwijanie doradztwa zawodowego. Staramy się patrzeć na doradztwo zawodowe bardzo szeroko. Jakby mamy takie poczucie, że doradztwo zawodowe jest takim wielkim dobrem dla szkoły, który może nadać sens nauki uczniom, jeżeli faktycznie będziemy robić to na wysokim poziomie, jeżeli będziemy rozumieć tak naprawdę, po co to doradztwo zawodowe pojawiło się w szkole. Ja po tych słowach wstępu w mojej prezentacji pokażę tą perspektywę sopocką, jak my to widzimy, jakbyśmy chcieli widzieć to doradztwo zawodowe, jak lokalnie współpracujemy. Także tutaj zaraz trochę o naszym kontekście polskim, sopockim. Witam Państwa serdecznie i zaproszę jeszcze do powiedzenia kilku słów powitalnych panią Lenę z naszego partnera, z organizacji partnerskiej POU Varazdin. Zapraszam.
Thank you very much, Anna. Hello to everybody from Varazdin, Croatia. I am director of People's Open University Varazdin. It's an adult and vocational education institution founded by the city of Varazdin. I'm very happy that we have the possibility to participate in this international project together with Poland and Germany on this important topic, so career guidance of children and youth. One of the very important focus groups in everything we do in all our programs are children and youth. So therefore, I'm also very pleased to be able to announce our two experts from Croatia, Toni Babarović and Iva Šverko from Ivo Pilar Institute of Social Sciences. Hello, Toni and Iva. Thank you very much. Hi, thank you very much for being here with us and for cooperating on this project with us. So Toni and Iva are going to present today the Croatian educational system as introductory into the part of career guidance system. So basically more into details. After the presentation of educational system, they're going to present the career transitions in adolescence, overview of career counseling in Croatia, educational standards and quality assurance for career counselors, and of course some research findings regarding career development in adolescence, and of course on online career counseling and career development workshops. So I hope that all of you that are going to participate today are going to stay with us until the very end, because we are also going to hear the Polish part, and I think it's going to be very interesting to compare the two systems. So thank you very much for having us on board, and I wish you all a very useful and pleasant webinar.
To możemy zaczynać. Bardzo dziękuję za słowa wprowadzenie. Ja włączę prezentację. Mam nadzieję, że jest widoczna. Zaraz tylko zaczniemy jeszcze od pierwszego slajdu, nie od ostatniego. OK. Dobrze, to jestem już technicznie gotowa. Mam nadzieję, że wszyscy Państwo widzicie, że prezentacja jest widoczna. Basiu, tylko daj mi znać, czy z Twojej perspektywy wszystko jest OK?
Wszystko jest OK.
Dobra, dziękuję bardzo. Tutaj też Basia wspiera technicznie, także miejmy nadzieję, że wszystko będzie dobrze, bo powiem Państwu tylko tak na początek mojej prezentacji, że o godzinie 9:30 nie miałam prądu, straciłam internet i właściwie pracując z domu to też była taka mała sytuacja podbramkowa, co będzie się działo, ale wszystko wróciło do normy, więc mam nadzieję, że już takich niespodzianek jak brak prądu nie będę miała. Także bardzo mi miło, że w ramach tego seminarium będę mogła zaprezentować podejście, jakie mamy do doradztwa zawodowego w Sopocie. Ja tylko tutaj jeszcze na prezentacji miałam program, to żebyście Państwo wiedzieli, że w połowie spotkania, mam nadzieję, że to będzie gdzieś tak 11:30, 11:45, zaprosimy Państwa na przerwę kawową, tak żebyśmy mogli chwilkę odetchnąć, otworzyć okna, zaczerpnąć świeżego powietrza, zadbać o taką higienę w trakcie tej pracy zdalnej. W drugiej części będzie kontynuowała swoją prezentację Iwa z Chorwacji. Na koniec zaprosimy też do pytań. Generalnie zachęcamy Państwa do przygotowywania pytań, tak żebyśmy mogli też podyskutować. Doradztwo zawodowe w systemie perspektywa sopocka. Ja zaznaczę, że ja nie będę bardzo szczegółowo mówiła tutaj o kwestiach takich związanych z całokształtem systemu, począwszy od rozporządzeń, po prostu tylko o tym wspomnę, a głównie w swojej prezentacji chciałabym się skoncentrować właśnie na tym, co robimy w Sopocie i jak staramy się wprowadzać takie dobre, jakościowo doradztwo zawodowe i jak staramy się wspierać jako Centrum Kształcenia Ustawicznego szkoły w realizacji doradztwa zawodowego. Także trochę z takiego metapoziomu, trochę z takiego poziomu naszych praktycznych doświadczeń chciałabym pokazać to co robimy. Gdzie jest obecne doradztwo zawodowe w instytucjach dla odbiorców indywidualnych? Czyli patrząc jakby szeroko na doradztwo zawodowe, możemy powiedzieć, że ono jest w tym systemie obecne, ale pytanie jest też takie, czy ono jest jakby rozpoznawalne i widoczne, czy faktycznie osoby dorosłe, dzieci, młodzież w pełni korzystają z tego, co daje nam doradztwo zawodowe. I tutaj patrząc szeroko na to, gdzie możemy znaleźć doradztwo zawodowe, no to na pierwszy punkt wysuwają się powiatowe urzędy pracy, gdzie osoby, które poszukują pracy, osoby bezrobotne, dorosłe mogą skorzystać z usługi doradztwa zawodowego. Kolejną taką instytucją, która zajmuje się doradztwem zawodowym, są wojewódzkie urzędy pracy. Kolejne miejsce, w którym możemy spotkać, którym osoby dorosłe, też zagrożone wykluczeniem społecznym, bezrobociem, mogą spotkać doradcę zawodowego, to są centra integracji społecznej, organizacje pozarządowe, które realizują różnego rodzaju projekty, w ramach których wspierają też głównie osoby borykające się z problemem bezrobocia. Centra kształcenia ustawicznego, tak jak nasza placówka, w której również zatrudniony jest doradca zawodowy, więc osoby dorosłe, które chcą zmienić swoją karierę, zdobyć nowe kompetencje, uzupełnić kwalifikacje, mogą też skorzystać z porady doradców zawodowych. Dzieci i młodzież. Gdzie dzieci i młodzież może skorzystać z porady doradcy zawodowego? Poradnie psychologiczno-pedagogiczne, które od zawsze miały w swoich szeregach doradcę zawodowego, ochotnicze chówce pracy, również organizacje pozarządowe. Ja tutaj nie wymieniam konkretnych, ale chodzi mi też o pokazanie tego, że gdzieś w obszarze NGO-sów to doradztwo zawodowe się pojawia. I tutaj wymieniam też nasze Trójmiejskie Centrum Rozwoju Talentów, które konkretnie ma siedzibę w Gdańsku, bo uważam, że jest to jedna z takich placówek, która faktycznie w pełni świadczy tą usługę doradztwa zawodowego i jest na naszej mapie tutaj trójmiejskiej rozpoznawalne. Celowo na razie nie pokazuję tutaj jeszcze szkoły, bo do szkół przejdę w kolejnych slajdach. Czyli mamy taki obraz doradztwa zawodowego, którego patrząc na wymienione instytucje możemy powiedzieć, że no jest tego sporo, prawda? Jest tego sporo. W jaki sposób doradztwo zawodowe jest wspierane? Też w systemie edukacji, czyli tutaj powoli chciałabym przejść do pokazania tego, że to doradztwo zawodowe pojawiło się już w szkołach i teraz kto wspiera realizację doradztwa zawodowego, więc Wojewódzki Urząd Pracy, tutaj z perspektywy też naszego regionu, Wojewódzki Urząd Pracy w Gdańsku prowadzi szereg działań, które wspierają zarówno doradców zawodowych pracujących w wyżej wymienionych instytucjach, jak również wspierają doradców zawodowych, którzy pojawili się w szkolnictwie poprzez budowanie sieci połączeń, networkingu, organizowanie różnego rodzaju warsztatów, konferencji, szkoleń, gdzie osoby zajmujące się doradztwem mogą z jednej strony wymienić się doświadczeniami, z drugiej strony właśnie też ze sobą współpracować. Powiatowe urzędy pracy, zarówno Powiatowy Urząd Pracy w Gdyni, jak i w Gdańsku podejmują różnego rodzaju działania mające na celu wesprzeć szkolnictwo w realizacji doradztwa, czyli nie tylko oferują swoje usługi w kontekście osób bezrobotnych, ale również odkąd doradztwo zawodowe pojawiło się w szkołach, starają się wspierać edukację. I tutaj mamy takie przykłady właśnie jak to Centrum Rozwoju Talentów, które jest koordynowane przez Powiatowy Urząd Pracy w Gdańsku, czy Powiatowy Urząd Pracy w Gdyni, w którym bezpośrednio my tutaj w Sopocie współpracujemy, realizuje projekt Gdyńscy Doradcy Kariery, a o takich przykładach działania jeszcze później powiem. Centrum Edukacji Nauczycieli w Gdańsku, które też obejmuje wsparciem ten temat, prowadzi ono sieć powiatowych konsultantów doradztwa zawodowego, którzy pracują w regionach. Ja jestem jednym z takich konsultantów tutaj na powiat sopocki. Też jest to taka możliwość wymiany doświadczeń, przyglądania się, jak w poszczególnych szkołach, w poszczególnych miastach, miasteczkach jest wdrażane to doradztwo zawodowe, więc to też jest bardzo taka ważna dla nas platforma. NGOsy, i tutaj już bym chciała konkretniej powiedzieć, czy Fundacja Gospodarcza w Gdyni, czy Inkubator Starter w Gdańsku, którzy też są naszymi partnerami, też realizują działania mające na celu rozwój doradztwa zawodowego. Na każdej wyższej uczelni w Trójmieście są biura karier. My tutaj głównie współpracujemy z naszą lokalną uczelnią Uniwersytetu SWPS w Sopocie, gdzie też można znaleźć ofertę dla szkół, zarówno dla nauczycieli, jak i dla uczniów. Na poziomie krajowym, czyli już wyżej, mamy Ośrodek Rozwoju Edukacji, Krajowy Ośrodek Wspierania Edukacji Zawodowej i Ustawicznej, Stowarzyszenie Doradców Szkolnych i Zawodowych, tudzież taką platformę, która nazywa się Mapa Karier. Więc ten obraz tego, kto jest zainteresowanym doradztwem zawodowym i kto wspiera doradztwo zawodowe w szkole, jest dosyć szeroki i mogłoby wydawać się, że właściwie z tej perspektywy patrząc, jesteśmy w bardzo dobrej sytuacji. Kto jest zainteresowany? Ta sieć powiązań, jak to tak naprawdę wygląda? Tutaj mam taki, chwileczkę przesunę sobie tylko slajd. Tutaj mam taki slajd, na którym możemy zobaczyć, kto jest interesariuszem tego doradztwa zawodowego, kogo tak naprawdę potrzebujemy i kto jest w centrum wydarzeń, czyli mamy uczniów, rodziców, dyrektorów szkół, nauczycieli, NGO-sy, włodarzy, naczelników wydziałów oświaty, samych doradców zawodowych i tych szkolnych, i tych pracujących poza szkołą, i instytucje otoczenia biznesu, i tutaj bym włączyła też instytucje rynku pracy i też samych pracodawców. Czyli tak de facto, patrząc na tą sytuację, widzimy, że to, aby to doradztwo zawodowe mogło zadziać się na bardzo wysokim poziomie, potrzebni nam są różni interesariusze, którzy się w to zaangażują, bo powstaje takie pytanie, czy szkoła sama w oderwaniu, że tak powiem, od rzeczywistości rynku pracy jest w stanie realizować dobre doradztwo zawodowe. Co więcej, takie kolejne pytanie, które się pokazuje, to jest pytanie, czy sam doradca zawodowy szkolny jest w stanie realizować doradztwo zawodowe na poziomie szkoły. Ja tutaj podczas tej mojej prezentacji też będę właśnie chciała zadawać te pytania, żebyśmy mogli wszyscy jakby też zastanowić się nad tym, w jaki sposób możemy zacieśniać jakby naszą współpracę i co możemy wspólnie robić, żeby podnosić jakość doradztwa zawodowego, ale też żeby podnosić świadomość obecności doradztwa zawodowego w naszych polskich szkołach. Tutaj jeszcze mam slajd, bo chciałabym docenić też działania Wojewódzkiego Urzędu Pracy, który prowadzi pomorski system poradnictwa zawodowego i wspiera szkoły w ramach takiego projektu Razem odkrywamy talenty Pomorzan. Ale przejdę tutaj do kolejnego slajdu, w którym chciałabym tak króciutko pokazać przepisy regulujące obecność doradztwa zawodowego w systemie szkolnym. Jak Państwo spojrzycie na ten slajd, to mamy przynajmniej 4 przepisy, takie podstawowe, które mówią wprost o obecności doradztwa zawodowego w szkole. I tak de facto to doradztwo zawodowe w szkole było obecne dużo wcześniej, było elementem systemu wsparcia psychologiczno-pedagogicznego. W 2018 roku po reformie edukacji to doradztwo zawodowe zostało wyciągnięte jako trzeci, bardzo istotny, ważny filar dla edukacji, dla przygotowywania młodych ludzi do zmieniającego się świata pracy. Czyli w systemie szkolnym oprócz pedagoga szkolnego, który jest bardzo który pełni bardzo istotną funkcję we wspieraniu wszystkich nauczycieli, uczniów w rozwoju, oprócz psychologa, który wspiera również taki dobrostan każdej młodej osoby w szkole, pojawił się doradca zawodowy, czyli mamy tych 3 głównych bohaterów naszej historii, którzy również powinni ze sobą współpracować, wspierać się. Jak to tak naprawdę wygląda w realiach? Wygląda to bardzo różnie, bo na pewno w każdej szkole jest zatrudniony na etacie pedagog, w nie każdej szkole jest zatrudniony na etacie psycholog, czasami jest to część etatu. No i teraz pytanie, czy w każdej szkole jest doradca zawodowy? Otóż ten doradca zawodowy w każdej szkole jest, ale pojawia się w różnej formie. Często jest tak, że jest to po prostu nauczyciel lub właśnie pedagog, tudzież psycholog, który dodatkowo jakby ma przypisaną tą funkcję doradcy zawodowego. Idąc dalej, czyli mamy przepisy, jeszcze raz do nich na chwilkę wrócę, mamy przepisy, mamy doradcę zawodowego, który powinien być w szkole zgodnie z tymi przepisami. Co więcej, cała szkoła powinna być zaangażowana we wdrażanie doradztwa zawodowego. I tutaj znowu pojawia się pytanie, jak to robimy, czy robimy to dobrze i czy chcemy to robić jeszcze lepiej, a co najważniejsze, czy faktycznie uważamy, że to doradztwo zawodowe jest ważne dla nas z perspektywy zarówno, nie wiem, samorządu, z perspektywy dyrektora szkoły, tudzież z perspektywy samych nauczycieli, rady, grona pedagogicznego. Co mówi to rozporządzenie, które wprowadziło doradztwo zawodowe? Otóż pokazuje nam bardzo ciekawą taką perspektywę, wpisującą się w filozofię uczenia się przez całe życie. Zgodnie z tym rozporządzeniem doradztwo zawodowe zaczyna się już, jakby temat doradztwa zawodowego powinien pojawić się już na etapie przedszkolnym, czyli u tych najmłodszych dzieci. A kolejne etapy to 1., 3. klasa, 4., 6. i stricte takie już oddziaływanie na ucznia w postaci doradcy zawodowego pojawia się na etapie 7., 8. klasy, czyli to jest koniec szkoły podstawowej. Tutaj dla naszych partnerów zagranicznych zaznaczę, że szkoła podstawowa w Polsce trwa właśnie te 8 lat. Młodzież w wieku 13-14 lat to jest końcówka szkoły, te dwa ostatnie lata. Podejmuje decyzję o tym, co dalej. I kolejny etap to są szkoły ponadpodstawowe, czyli w to wpisujemy szkoły branżowe 1., 2. stopnia, licea ogólnokształcące. I tutaj jak spojrzymy, proszę Państwa, na ten slajd, to możemy się przyjrzeć, jakie tematy powinniśmy podejmować, oczywiście dostosowując się do odpowiedniego etapu rozwoju młodego człowieka, jakie tematy powinniśmy realizować, czyli mamy podzielone to na 4 bloki. Poznanie siebie, to jest ten punkt wyjścia, taki najważniejszy w doradztwie zawodowym, czy pytanie tak naprawdę, kim jestem, i w przedszkolu zaczynamy od takiego hasła, co lubię robić, co dziecko lubi robić, tak, co robi dobrze, czyli umiejętność odpowiedzi na takie bardzo podstawowe pytania. 1., 3. klasa, zainteresowania, mocne strony, 4., 6. klasa, znowu pogłębiamy temat mocnych stron, prezentowania własnych działań, zainteresowań, już w kierunku idąc coraz końca szkoły podstawowej, mówimy o tym, że uczeń już powinien znać siebie, dokonywać autoanalizy, powinien potrafić hierarchizować swoje wartości, nadawać sens jakby swoim potrzebom. I włączamy też taki temat zdrowie a zawód, czyli jakie mam możliwości też takie wynikające ze strony zdrowotnej do wyboru kolejnej szkoły. No i już na kolejnych etapach to jest wzmocnione, uczeń powinien budować swoje portfolio, powinien już potrafić przyglądać się swojemu rozwojowi zawodowemu, osobistemu, analizować swoje mocne, słabe strony, wyznaczać obszary do wzmocnienia i tak dalej. I patrząc na przebieg tego punktu poznaj siebie, w moim odczuciu możemy powiedzieć, że taka osoba kończąca już szkołę podstawową, czy też osoba już będąca na kolejnym etapie, jeżeli faktycznie dobrze, jakościowo będziemy to prowadzić, naprawdę będzie miała łatwiejsze życie, będzie jej dużo łatwiej odnajdować się w świecie zmiany, w świecie, którym możemy być w każdym momencie czymś zaskoczonym, w świecie, w którym, jak raporty mówią, codziennie powstają nowe stanowiska pracy. W przeciągu najnowszy raport Forum Ekonomicznego mówi o tym, że w przeciągu 5 lat będzie potrzeba tego, aby około 40% pracowników zmieniało swoje kompetencje, a więc na to wszystko my musimy przygotowywać młodą osobę. Bazując na takim podejściu od przedszkola, myślę, że taka osoba mogłaby być bardzo dobrze przygotowana do tego świata zmiany. Kolejne punkty w tym rozporządzeniu koncentrują się na świecie zawodów i rynku pracy, rynku edukacji i właśnie uczenia się przez całe życie. I kolejny punkt, planowanie własnego rozwoju, podejmowanie decyzji edukacyjno-zawodowych. Nie będę rozwijała tych wszystkich punktów, ta prezentacja będzie też dla naszych zagranicznych partnerów i dla Państwa dostępna, ale myślę, że słuchają nas też specjaliści, Państwo bardzo dobrze znacie ten schemat, więc tak to wygląda, jakby to chcemy realizować, to chcemy wdrażać w naszą szkolną strategię edukacji. Kto jest w ogóle odpowiedzialny w szkole za realizację tych punktów? Kto tak naprawdę się powinien tym zajmować, tak? Czyli w szkole powinien powstać tak zwany wewnątrzszkolny system doradztwa zawodowego, taki dokument, dokument strategiczny, w który włączeni są wszyscy pracownicy szkoły. Powinna być tam określona tematyka działań, powinny być określone metody i formy realizacji tych działań, terminy, osoby odpowiedzialne za działania. Powinno się tam ująć to, z kim szkoła współpracuje, jaką rolę pełni poradnia pedagogiczno-psychologiczna w realizacji tego doradztwa zawodowego, instytucje rynku pracy, w jaki sposób z daną szkołą są związane, zaangażowane. To wszystko, ten cały program musi być zatwierdzony przez Radę Pedagogiczną i przez dyrektora. Doradca zawodowy odpowiedzialny jest zgodnie z rozporządzeniem za diagnozowanie potrzeb, opracowywanie programu wraz z innymi nauczycielami, koordynowanie działań, wspieranie nauczycieli, też działania informacyjne, budowanie sieci kontaktów, no i samą też realizację działań. Jak to wygląda? Każdy z Państwa prawdopodobnie w swojej szkole ma inne doświadczenia, tak? My sugerujemy, że istotne jest to, żeby w każdej szkole był zespół szkolny odpowiedzialny za to, żeby była rozbudowana sieć współpracy, żeby w szkole były dostępne pakiety materiałów informacyjnych, no i żeby stawiać na taką komunikację wewnętrzną i zewnętrzną. I to są tak naprawdę wyzwania. Czyli tutaj na tym slajdzie tak jakby chciałabym pokazać, że ten wewnątrzszkolny system doradztwa zawodowego to jest projekt dla szkoły. Po co, dlaczego, dla kogo, w jakim celu? Każdy projekt powinien odpowiadać na takie pytania. Tutaj na tym kole, na tym takim torcie zaznaczyłam to, co powinien ujmować tak obrazowo ten wewnątrzszkolny system doradztwa zawodowego. I jak Państwo widzicie, jeden kawałek tego koła to jest to 10 godzin i to jest to takie symboliczne 10 godzin, które zgodnie z rozporządzeniem jest przeznaczone na prowadzenie zajęć grupowych z doradztwa zawodowego. I na poziomie szkoły podstawowej, klasa 7 i 8, to jest po 10 godzin na rok szkolny dla klasy. Na etapie, później na kolejnych etapach edukacji, czyli szkołę ponadpodstawową, to jest 10 godzin na cały cykl szkoły. I tutaj ja mam takie poczucie, że dyskusja o doradztwie zawodowym została zdominowana przez myślenie przez pryzmat 10 godzin. Czyli bardzo często myśli się nie o całościowym oddziaływaniu na ucznia, na szkołę, na otoczenie, tylko myśli się o tym, że 10 godzin to może za mało, żeby zrealizować doradztwo zawodowe. Więc my tutaj też mamy takie podejście oparte na tym, żeby odejść od myślenia przez pryzmat 10 godzin, a właśnie przejść do takiego myślenia całościowego, globalnego, projektowego, w którym uwzględniając wiele aspektów działania, do którego zobowiązuje nas rozporządzenie, jesteśmy w stanie właśnie tworzyć system, projekt dla szkoły, który finalnie, jeżeli będzie dobrze działał, to myślę, że bardzo ułatwi nam pracę w szkole i mocno wpłynie też na motywację uczniów do nauki. Perspektywa nasza sopocka jest taka, opowiem o niej teraz troszeczkę, już też zbliżając się powoli do końca mojej prezentacji. W Sopocie jakby staramy się podchodzić do tego całościowo, staramy się podchodzić do tematu doradztwa zawodowego, a też w takim podejściu otwartym na współpracę, otwartym na popełnianie błędów i poszukiwaniu dobrych rozwiązań. Przez minione 3 lata wraz tutaj z lokalnymi partnerami wypracowywaliśmy sopocki model doradztwa zawodowego i tutaj zachęcam Państwa na stronie internetowej www.ckusopot.pl w zakładce doradztwo zawodowe znajdziecie Państwo nasz model, można się z nim zapoznać szczegółowo. Wypracowaliśmy wspólnie publikację, w której opisaliśmy to, jak chcielibyśmy, żeby wyglądało doradztwo zawodowe, jak przypisaliśmy mu pewną też rolę, opisaliśmy to, jakie widzimy rozwiązania, przedstawiliśmy też to, co już u nas dobrze działa, czyli ten nasz sopocki model doradztwa zawodowego ma bardzo charakter taki otwarty, jest początkiem projektowania pewnej usługi edukacyjnej, która widzimy, że jest możliwa do zrealizowania właśnie w dialogu oraz takim sukcesywnym testowaniu. Bardzo ważne dla nas jest to, że współpracujemy z wiceprezydent naszego miasta, która nas bardzo wspiera ten temat, z Wydziałem Edukacji, z poradnią pedagogiczną, psychologiczną, ze wszystkimi szkołami, również z instytucjami otoczenia biznesu, z instytucjami rynku pracy, w takim otwartym dialogu. Naszym celem jest takie ułatwienie wdrożenia usługi doradztwa zawodowego w szkołach i zapewnienie wysokiej jakości tejże usługi. Kluczowe pytania, na które sobie cały czas stawiamy sobie te pytania, to jaki jest w ogóle cel tego doradztwa, kto jest jego głównym odbiorcą, kto realizuje ten proces doradztwa zawodowego w systemie, co szkoła zyskuje dzięki doradztwu, kto wie w ogóle o tym doradztwie i dla kogo tak naprawdę to doradztwo jest ważne i czy dla wszystkich. Te cechy tego modelu, który tworzyliśmy, to otwartość, dynamika, taka aktualność, atrakcyjność i adekwatność, czyli otwartość na zmiany, które są na rynku pracy, otwartość na potrzeby wszystkich interesariuszy, atrakcyjność dla ucznia, aktualizowanie ciągłe i taka adekwatność w kontekście tego, co dzieje się na rynku pracy. I tutaj w jakim jesteśmy obecnie punkcie i podam kilka przykładów naszych działań. Prowadzimy Sopocką sieć doradztwa zawodowego. Ja mam przyjemność tą siecią koordynować. Mam nadzieję, że tutaj moje koleżanki i jeden kolega z sieci też są z nami. To jest platforma doświadczeń, konsultacje indywidualne na potrzeby szkół, organizuje rady pedagogiczne, współpraca między szkołami, prowadzę profil na Facebooku do polubienia, którego zapraszam, Sopocka sieć doradztwa zawodowego. W ramach Centrum Kształcenia Ustawicznego jesteśmy w trakcie tworzenia biblioteki narzędzi doradztwa zawodowego. Niestety sytuacja covidowa trochę pokrzyżowała nasze plany, już właściwie mamy materiały, lada dzień nasi sopoccy szkolni doradcy będą mogli korzystać z ogromnego pakietu narzędzi, aby wzbogacić swój warsztat pracy. Przystanek Praca to jest współpraca z pracodawcami, realizowaliśmy to 2 lata wstecz, teraz jest troszeczkę to działanie wstrzymane, realizowaliśmy to w takich właściwie 3 formułach, gdzie CKU wspierało szkoły w organizowaniu wycieczek zawodoznawczych, organizowaliśmy spotkania z pracodawcami, warsztaty z pracodawcami dla naszych sopockich uczniów. W ramach Centrum Kształcenia Ustawicznego mamy firmę symulacyjną Smart Studio, gdzie prowadzimy już od dobrych kilku lat warsztaty z doradztwa zawodowego dla uczniów oraz mają oni tam możliwość w tej firmie zdobyć takie pierwsze doświadczenia, próbki pracy. W tym roku ruszyliśmy z projektem Szkolni Ambasadorzy Doradztwa Zawodowego, gdzie zaprosiliśmy do głosu uczniów. Ten projekt też trochę z uwagi na sytuację covidową nie działa tak, jak to sobie wymarzyliśmy, bo mamy ograniczone możliwości kontaktu, ale jest to świetny taki pilotażowy program, w którym zapraszamy młodzież do dyskusji, chcemy się dowiedzieć o tym, co oni myślą, jak oni postrzegają doradztwa, co by chcieli. Patronatem, wszystkie nasze działania generalnie są objęte patronatem Urzędu Miasta Sopotu, co jest bardzo ważne, i ten projekt jest przykładem takiej bezkosztowej współpracy samorządu, biznesu i szkół. Naszym partnerem jest firma benefaktor, przedstawiciel firmy Belbin Polska, która zaoferowała naszym uczestnikom naszego projektu, to jest 10 wybranych osób z szkół ponadpodstawowych, zaproponowała badanie, którym dysponuje ta firma kompetencji zawodowych. Sopocka Platforma Profilaktyczna jest to też efekt współpracy lokalnej Urzędu Miasta z Uniwersytetem SWPS w Sopocie. Powstała platforma, dzięki której mogliśmy przebadać wszystkie szkoły. Na podstawie tego badania zostanie stworzony program profilaktyczno-wychowawczy dla każdej szkoły i co jest ważne, udało nam się włączyć do tego tematu element doradztwa zawodowego. Jest to istotne o tyle, że mogliśmy zapytać zarówno uczniów, rodziców i nauczycieli, co myślą i jak widzą doradztwo zawodowe. Więc tutaj w tej chwili jakby pracujemy też nad tym, jak wykorzystać efekty tego badania. Wcześniej wspominałam o Powiatowym Urzędzie Pracy w Gdyni. Uruchomiliśmy we współpracy taki program konsultacji indywidualnych dla uczniów, rodziców. Raz w miesiącu to się odbywa online. No i współpraca międzynarodowa. Dzisiaj możemy się spotkać w ramach tej współpracy. Szukamy dobrych praktyk i na własnym podwórku, i w Polsce, i za granicą, więc jest to dla nas też bardzo ważny kontekst, też takiego kształtowania naszych kompetencji współpracy międzykulturowej. Mamy jeszcze drugi projekt INCAS w ramach Erasmus+, który dotyczy mobilności zawodowej. I wyzwania, jakie przed nami stoją. Wsparcie systemowe, inaczej nie da się wdrożyć tego elementu reformy edukacji, którym jest doradztwo zawodowe, to odejście od myślenia przez pryzmat 10 godzin, a zaangażowanie całej kadry pedagogicznej do realizacji działań, działanie zespołowe na rzecz jednoosobowej odpowiedzialności, a działania związane z promocją doradztwa zawodowego, budowanie takiej świadomości tego, czym jest doradztwo, że nie jest to jednorazowy wybór zawodu, tylko to jest takie właśnie kształtowanie tych kompetencji, poznania siebie, to co jest tak naprawdę fajnie opisane w rozporządzeniu. Planowanie sposobu komunikacji i marketingu doradztwa w szkole i poza szkołą i taka pomoc szkołom w kontaktach z światem biznesu, budowanie networkingu. I ostatni slajd mojej prezentacji pokazuje jeszcze raz jakby ten spektrum tego, kto jest interesariuszem doradztwa zawodowego, kogo musimy zaangażować, jak pytanie udrożnić te kanały współpracy pomiędzy nami, bo i tutaj taki cytat na koniec z naszego modelu, pojedynczy gracz pomimo dużego zaangażowania, motywacji i posiadanych kompetencji nie jest w stanie udźwignąć zadania. Przygotowane i skuteczne wdrażanie nowych rozwiązań systemowych wymaga do włączenia szerokiego grona interesariuszy, którzy będą współtworzyć sieć aktywnego networkingu. Bardzo Państwu dziękuję, zapraszam do współpracy, a jeżeli Państwo jesteście zainteresowani, zapraszam do kontaktu, jesteśmy w stanie uzupełnić nasze materiały, podzielić się naszymi dobrymi praktykami. Bardzo dziękuję. Halo?
Tak, Aniu, czy
Tak, okej,
w takim razie no bardzo dziękujemy tutaj, Aniu, za
zapraszamy teraz kolejną osobę do prezentacji. Oddajemy pałeczkę Chorwatom. Zapraszamy.
Dokładnie.
Hi, good morning to everybody. Do you hear me properly? It's okay, I think. I will introduce myself firstly. I'm Toni Babarović. I'm a researcher on the Institute of Ivo Pilar, Institute of Social Sciences. I'm a psychologist, and I'm in this field of career counseling and guidance for 20 years now, even more. What do we do here on the Institute? We develop, adapt, do different tools for career counseling, different tests and instruments. We provide some education for career guidance and counselors in schools, especially psychologists and pedagogists. We collaborate with the Croatian Employment Center and develop some internet tools for career development. We provide our own internet tools for career development and counseling, and we also work with some ministries to provide some new approaches to develop policies for career counseling in Croatia, and I will provide you an overview of career guidance and counseling in Croatia. And after me, my colleague Iva, with who I collaborate closely for all these years, will present you some tools and some research findings. I will start now with my presentation and put my slideshow. I hope it's okay. Just a second.
Yes, everything is visible.
It's visible. I think it's okay. Now I will start now with the presentation, and I will talk about career counseling in Croatia, how it's organized, some problems, some solutions, and I will especially focus to career guidance and counseling in schools for young people and students. And here is what I'm going to talk about. I will just firstly present you education system in Croatia, because it's different to German educational system, as we heard this week. It's also different to Polish system, as I can hear it now. Then I will try to focus on two points in time, two transitions in adolescence, when it begins. It begins at the end of elementary school and the end of secondary school. So that's most crucial points of career transition where we have to put our intention, our focus on. Then I will talk about career counseling in Croatia, how it's organized. I will talk about career employment service. It's some kind of umbrella organization that deals with career counseling and guidance in Croatia. Then I will talk about career counseling in schools, how it's organized, who provide counseling, to whom, and to what is the content of this counseling, and hours spent in this counseling, etc. Then I will say something not very much about different agencies, NGOs, and private sector. Do they provide some kind of counseling, and to what extent? And I will try to then to say something about what standards for career counselors should be, and how it's now defined in Croatia. That's it mostly. So I will try start with this educational system. Okay, here is some kind of scheme of educational system in Croatia. We have, of course, some preschooling, but it's not so important in this context. And then we have elementary education. It's 8-year elementary education. Then her first career decision should be made. Then kids, it's age 14 approximately. They have to choose between different kind of secondary education, secondary schools. On the left side, they can choose gymnasiums or this kind of general education. It lasts 4 years. And some kind of vocational education, vocational schools, but we have different type of vocational schools. We have 4-year programs, mostly 5 just for nurses, but it's mostly 4-year programs, and it's like a very comprehensive programs, and it's similar in a way to gymnasium programs. Then we have 3-year programs. It's in fact vocational programs for specific occupations. And we have short courses, 2-year programs, or even 1-year programs. It's called, it's strictly some kind of vocational training, in fact. To go to further education, to high education or university or polytechnics, you have to pass some kind of state matura, state exam, and on the basis of state exam and grades you get in secondary school, you can choose some kind of higher education. You can go to these state exams if you finished gymnasium or this 4-year vocational program. Then you can go to this matura exams, and then you can choose university level or some kind of expert studies or polytechnics, let's say. And this is the second decision you have to make if you are going to further education. Or if you're on this right side of secondary school education, then you usually go to work, to labor market, to world of work, and you don't choose further education. So the first big decision is made after the elementary school. Kids are age 14, pretty young. And if they choose these 3 years programs or less, then further education is, it's possible, but it's not so easy to attain. And if you choose these 4-year programs, then you have possibility to go to further education to university or polytechnics. So we have 2 points of decision making at the end of elementary, at the end of secondary school. I think it's common in different countries, but it's strictly like that in Croatia. So what really happens here in these 2 transitions? So the first transition should be done at age 14, and second at the age 18. What are the problems or difficulties in these decisions? At the age of 14, ending the elementary school, you can choose different schools based on your interests, of course, but also on the base of your school grades. It's problematic, particularly when you have to choose vocational trainings school or vocational schools. And this, what we know from our research, that a lot of kids, lots of pupils choosing vocational schools at this level, at age 14, did not choose properly. They have problems with finishing these schools. They have problems with motivation to finishing these schools. So they are dissatisfied, some dropouts, some failures, problems. Especially it's problematic to change the school if you find that school. I have somebody opened in the communication channel, so please. So if you have problems with choosing these vocational schools, it's problematic to change it at this level. You can change it only at the beginning of the schooling, so in the first grade of secondary school. So after that, change of school, this horizontal mobility is not so easy. So that's a problem. If you choose gymnasium program, then you in fact prolong this decision, and your decision should be made only after this program when you choose some kind of further education. So when we come to this transition at age 18, it's mostly between choosing the studies or entering the world of work. Gymnasium students have better chances to choose the universities. And as I said, it strongly depends on their results in state matura. And it's quite challenging for them. It's one-time exam and it's really stressful. And for most of pupils that chose vocational schools, then they already chosen their career, and they don't have this kind of problems with choosing further education because they're mostly entering the job market. But it should be a problem with them. It is a problem for them to get a job because we have a quite high level of unemployment on the state level. So it's a problem at that level. So I will just give you very few short slides to show you the insights in these 2 transitions. We have 2 researches that I will rely on. One research is made in 2017. It's made by me and my colleague Iva Šverko, and it's focused on students and their perception of career decision making in these 2 transition points. And we have some results made by our colleagues for 2014, and it's focused to perceptions of people that work in schools, especially psychologists and pedagogists who provide some kind of career counseling in schools, and I will say something about that also. So first, something from students' perspective. What sources of information they use when they have to choose secondary school. So they rely mostly on, as you can see, on parents, friends, family members, and not so much on persons who should provide some kind of career counseling, especially psychologists and pedagogists. As you can see, it's like 20–30% of them rely on information provided from these experts. More rely on some information gathered from headroom teacher. It's teacher that's responsible for the one class, or subject teachers. As you can see, about 50–60%. They use websites as a source of information, 60% of them, and that's how it looks at the end of elementary school. It really doesn't change much when we go to the end of the high school. The parents, friends, and family members are still the most important elements of information gathering sources. They still do not rely on psychologists, pedagogists in their schools. They also don't rely on any other career counselors in Croatian employment centers and any other counselors, as you can see. They rely much more on websites and material printed on websites. So, as you can see from these slides, both slides, neither in elementary nor in this secondary level, kids do not rely much on specialists. Any special sources they rely on is websites mostly, because schools and universities provide information about their programs they offer. And we have also some websites that provide some kind of career counseling in way of instruments or some tests that can provide some kind of advice for the kids. So the role of professionals in this model is not so pronounced. It's some kind of problematic. I'll just show you this. When we ask them, was it easy for you to make a decision? You can see these two pies. On the left pie, you can see when you have to choose the high school at the end of elementary school. On the right pie, you can see what happens after high school when you have to choose some kind of university. Was it easy for them to make the career decision? 50% of elementary school pupils have problems, and after the high school, the problems was presented, or it's obvious for 78% of high school students. So making a career decision is problematic, and the question is who can help them to make better career decisions. It's obvious that they rely on family members, not so much on the professional help. So how it can be improved. So how it's organized in Croatia, how career counseling is organized, and who are professionals who can help kids in this career decision making. We have a long history, in fact, of career guidance. The first career counseling center was founded in 1931. So it's under umbrella of Croatian Employment Service. And after that, Croatian Employment Service worked a lot on career guidance and counseling. Now they have a national, regional, and local offices, 5 regional offices, 7 local offices, and 99 branches. It's small offices in different towns. So they are quite widespread over the Croatia, and they provide service for individual career guidance and counseling for primary, secondary schools, universities, and mostly for unemployed people. But still, it's kind of not enough, because their capacities, they don't have enough counselors, they don't have enough room for all the interest students, for all students they need some kind of help, and they try to make some improvements in their work. So they opened something that's called Centers for Information and Career Counseling. These CSOC centers are opened by CIC, Croatian Employment Services, And these centers are like offices designed for providing service for career guidance for different group of clients. It's especially focused to primary and secondary school students, and also to some university students unemployed, but mostly to students. However, these centers are active in 12 cities and towns, and they usually offer some kind of individual or group career guidance, but due to these capacities, it's not for all. In fact, it's situated only in bigger cities, and they don't have capacities to give some kind of advice or counsel to all students that are interested in this. They organize workshops, seminars, lectures, etc., etc. They provide some materials, brochures on education and labor market, but still, we think it's not enough. They also have some kind of online counseling there in the centers. There are computers in that center, and you can use some kind of computer program. It's called My Choice. It's on one web portal provided by CES, and this online questionnaire can give you some advice also in this process. So CES was recognized that they don't have capacities neither in the central offices, nor in these CSOC offices, and they start to develop some kind of online counseling. In 2015, we was also included in this development, my colleague Iva and I. So they tried to make some kind of web portal to provide very comprehensive information and advices about choosing the career. They developed several questionnaires on this portal, and they have also a description of all occupations in Croatia, at least for those that have some kind of educational programs. So they have like 280, I think, occupations described in details, and educational paths and everything related to this. And they have two instruments. One is My Choice. It's kind of consulting test that consists of interests, preferences, and skills and competencies. It's based on person development fit paradigm. So if you give answers about your interests, preferences, and skills and competencies, the system will provide you information or list of occupation that suit you the best. They have some other instruments on this web portal, and it's quite, let's say, it's quite comprehensive. They also have something called Career Compass, that tool that facilitates you browsing through this information, and it's available for all on this website. So it's kind of effort to provide career counseling to all, not just for those who can physically come to these offices. We will see how it works. We developed it, but we still don't have some kind of evaluation of usefulness and the validity of this system. We know it's valid, but we don't know exactly how students feel using this, and what advices are given and how they suit their future vocational choices. So this is what CES is doing. However, as I already said, Croatian Employment Center has some kind of problems. They have limited personal organizational capacities. They are well spread around Croatia, but still in smaller towns and villages, there's no offices of CES, and it could be problematic. And they have different priorities because they have to work with unemployed people. They have to find some kind of jobs for them. We have a quite high unemployment rate in Croatia. It's like 14% or something. So they're focused to work with unemployed people, to provide them some kind of job opportunities, or to provide them some kind of education to switch their occupation, or to get some short vocational training that can give them better opportunity to get a job. So they're really, how to say, overloaded with this job, and then don't have enough time to work with students, regular students. Moreover, in recent years, we have a increasing number of elementary school students, especially with special needs, with disabilities, learning difficulties, etc. And by the law, Croatian Employment Center should provide an expert council opinion to which school they should or could enroll. So it's quite a workload to work with all these kids, and they don't have enough time and capacities and personnel to work with regular students and I don't know, pupils who are undecided. They try to do that through the CSOC centers, but these CSOC centers, as it seems, depend highly on EU financing, so it's not very clear what is going to happen with these centers in future. So in the last few years, there are several initiatives from the government and Ministry of Education to set the career guidance and counseling at the school level, to reinforce, to work with career counselors, psychologists, and pedagogists in schools to provide them information, knowledge, and everything that they need to become more active in career counseling in schools, and to provide career counseling to all kids. So that's the idea how it should work. So on one hand, the Croatian Employment Center is still an umbrella organization, but they, in the last few years, tried to put more emphasis or to switch this role of career counseling to schools. So I will tell you now how it works in schools and what are the problems and how it works now. I will try to answer for several questions that you're interested in, I suppose. So are career counselors employed in schools? I will say something about it. How does the school provide career guidance for students and parents? How many hours are provided per student? I don't have information per student, but I have information in general. What's the balance between group and individual counseling in schools? And is it available for all? And what are the problems in this? So by the several legal acts, it's Act on Primary and Secondary Education and National Framework for Preschool Education, General Compulsory Primary and Secondary Education, the schools should provide some kind of career guidance and counseling for students. And in this, they should collaborate with Croatian Employment Center. And who is responsible for this career guidance and counseling in schools? It's mostly the school psychologists and pedagogists. They should have a biggest role, but due to their limited capacities, they should also rely on subject teachers and class master. It's one of the teachers who is responsible for one class, and they could also have some roles in career counseling. Subject teachers through some kind of intercurricular themes, and class masters should provide some kind of career information and counseling, mostly group counseling, at something called class meetings. I don't know, do you have something like that? But we have it each week, every week. 1 school hour is devoted to these class meetings, and they here in this class meeting can discuss everything, but also they can discuss or work on career guidance, especially in 8th grade of elementary and in 4th grade of high school. We don't have career counselors. So there's no job title as career counselor in Croatia still. The closest are psychologists and in ways pedagogists who are specialized in career counseling, but not quite formally, but through some kind of workshops. and some kind of additional education. Psychologists are in a better position in a way to do that, because they can use some psychometrical instruments, tools, and tests, so they can provide maybe a little bit more, especially related to the I don't know, cognitive abilities, personality traits, etc. So they are maybe the most important persons who can provide career counseling in schools. By the law, they should provide it, and it's listed in their obligations that they have to provide career counseling to students, but it's not specified to which extent, and it's usually not one of their priorities. The question, how many hours of career guidance are provided in school? We don't have it on student level, but we have some information through the research of our colleagues Babarović and Lukic in 2014, how many hours are prescribed in school curricula for career counseling in different schools. Green bars are elementary schools and blue bars are high schools. There's a number of psychologists and pedagogists who gave these answers, and approximately, you can see there in the graph, the most schools have somewhere in between 20 and 50 hours, 40 hours, I think it's mean. About 40-50 hours they have prescribed in a school curricula for career counseling. However, you have to take into account that it's prescribed for all classes, and it depends how school is big. So schools are different in size, and sometimes this 40 hours of work of school psychologists, maybe it's not enough to cover it all. So what do they provide? 88% of time prescribed in this curricula is devoted to informing about educational programs and career opportunities and jobs that offers, and 39% is devoted to or prescribed to work with students with disabilities. So there's no much for some kind of guidance through some kind of workshops, group work, etc. So it's mostly informing and work with a student with special needs. Then we ask them, the green bars are elementary school, the blue bars are high school, and on the left side, this darker shade of green or blue are how much time do you spend in individual work with individual counseling, and how much do you spend in work with groups, group work, group counseling. So it's 50-50 more or less, 50% in individual and 50% in group counseling, group guidance. It's how it works now on the level of psychologists. And here are some target groups. It's a question related to whom do you provide this career counseling. On the left side, the darkest shade is with students with special needs. So you can see in elementary school it's 26%, in high school it's around 17%. So a lot of work goes to this kids with some difficulties, and it's individual work mostly. 40% in elementary and 52% in secondary school, it's work with students without any difficulties, like average population. Then 13% and 12%, 13 and 12% is work with teachers. It's mostly work with teachers who offer some kind of career counseling to their students, and they coordinate, they work with them and how to provide the best career guidance and counseling through this media, through the teachers, and with parents, it's like 18 and 17% work with parents. The work with parents is mostly informing on the parents meeting, because they have several parents meeting through the school year, and at the end of elementary and secondary school they have obligation to provide parents some kind of meeting that inform them about the schooling programs, high school schooling programs or university schooling programs or job opportunities. So it's some kind of obligation that have to work something with parents. And sometimes they also work with parents during the individual counseling, especially with the students with needs, and if needed with students who are undecided. So that's how it works, how it looks like regarding the target groups of person. On the other hand, when we ask kids, students in elementary school, what was provided to you by school psychologist or pedagogist, it's only psychologists here, but it's also very similar with the pedagogists. So you can see this graph. It's during the elementary school, did you get support, and what way of support did you get from a school specialist, let's say? So blue bars are never. So 20% have never have any contact with school psychologist or pedagogist that informed them about anything. And you can see they 30%, 30%, they don't have any career guidance from the perspective of kids. And at the end, you can see the last bar at the bottom of this graph, how many kids are had some kind of individual career counseling. It's 71% didn't have any individual counseling, and only 30% have some individual counseling in elementary school. Similarly, in the high school, even less. As you can see, even less, 50% have some kind of career guidance, let's say workshops, tests, websites, and 50% didn't have any of this. And individual counseling was provided only for, let's say, I know, 20% of them in secondary schools. So when they asked them, did you get enough support from your school psychologist or pedagogist in career decision-making process? To some extent, 56%, and no, not at all, 26%, and only 18% are satisfied with great help and support in elementary school. In high school, secondary school, 47% no. School psychologist did not provide me enough help and support, and 44% said to some extent, and only 9% said that they are fully satisfied with support provided from psychologists. So we can see from this graph that even if it's prescribed to provide some kind of career guidance and counseling by the school experts, kids didn't perceive it as enough or sufficient, and it is a problem. How it could be resolved, we can discuss about it. I will give you something what we know. What happens really in schools? Due to teachers and psychologists, pedagogists' workload, the level of active involvement in providing career guidance is quite low. From this school psychologist perspective, as we know, it's not very high on the list of their priorities. They have a lot of work to do with other kind of problems, I don't know, behavioral problems, educational problems, etc. So it's not high on their list. They usually provide one-time information. if they use some kind of counseling, it's mostly group counseling, that they can cover more kids with this, and individual counseling is somehow reserved with kids with some problems. They have problems with material support and financial support, and they need training. They need further training education in this area. As we know from our workshops, they don't feel educated enough, they don't feel confident enough to work with career guidance and counseling, and from this perspective, maybe they avoid it, and somehow they're not prone to work with kids in this area, and they feel they don't have enough about world of work and how to match different careers with personality traits, and they're not trained enough to do this. From the students' perspective, what we know, especially in high schools, they do not perceive that they have enough and sufficient support. Mostly it's providing some information about educational programs and not real counseling or group work. But what about universities, this highest level? We don't have really fresh information, but we know from research made in 2016-17 that approximately 50% of higher education institutions have some kind of career guidance offices. And we know that this percent is rising. And we also know that if you want to get reaccreditation for university programs, you need to have some kind of career guidance center. So most of the universities and faculties have some kind of counseling and guidance center. What they do in this career guidance center is mostly related to career management, strengthening some competencies for work, and they usually find some educational pathways for their students, student change, etc., etc. They work on internship and employment. They are less involved in career guidance because I know is it so in Poland or Germany, but when you enroll in some university program, it's not very easy to change it, and this Bologna process did not work very efficiently in this way. So when you enroll, for instance, for university educational program of psychologists, it's not very easy to change it after the bachelor degree to some other educational programs, so it's not so common. So they usually don't give much, they don't work a lot with career guidance in that way. They usually work in career guidance in a way to provide them best future education opportunities, exchanges, etc. Who work mostly in these offices is psychologists. They are sometimes fully employed on this position, but sometimes they also work as a psychologist or teaching some psychological subjects in the university, so it's some kind of their additional job or additional activity at the university as a member or leader of these career guidance centers at the university level. What about other agencies, NGOs, and private sector? We have to stress a very nice initiative. It's called Euroguidance. I think it's all around Europe, but Euroguidance Croatia work quite well. So Euroguidance Center was set up as a part of Agency of Mobility and Europe programs in Croatia. And this Euroguidance Center monitors the career guidance state and provides some kind of promotional educational activities for all those who offer some kind of career guidance and in education mostly, and something around in employment. They provide information, they share good practices in this area, and they encourage individuals to learn abroad mostly with this job shadowing programs, etc. I think it's a good job done by this Euroguidance Center, and until now there were several, maybe it's 20 different educational workshops. Iva and I are also involved in these educational programs, and over 200 school psychologists and maybe, I know, 150, maybe less than 200, but something about this number of school psychologists, pedagogists finish these workshops, and they get some knowledge how to provide quality career guidance and counseling for their students in elementary and secondary schools. I think that they get knowledge, they become more self-confident in this area, and we think that they will provide better career guidance and counseling and more career guidance and counseling in schools after finishing this program. So Euroguidance is one of the important pillar of providing this kind of educational and training for school staff. NGOs, we have several NGOs that work, I know not really several, but maybe few in Croatia that work with career guidance and counseling. We have one, it's called Razbor, and it's also by me and my colleague Iva run. And we develop online assessment and tests and some other kind of programs also, some kind of school programs for career guidance. The other institution or NGO is Center Sirius, that provides career guidance and counseling for different kind of different clients. They have a lot of projects related to social inclusion and for at the labor market, etc., and employment. And we have several youth organizations that work on this area, but I don't think they have a real strict focus on this. They support young unemployed people, but it's not in some kind of defined or organized manner. So it's more or less like project activities, very random. Private sector, we have to think about two things. The first is that we have a long-standing tradition of career guidance in Croatia, and it's mostly under umbrella of Croatian Employment Center. It's also provided in schools, so and it's free of charge. It's by the law, so there's not much room for private initiative in this area. We have some private counselors, but it's very random, and we have also different counselors, I said psychologists, who provide some kind of counseling, but it's not focused on career guidance. It could be done in areas of career guidance and personal growth, but it's not strictly focused on career guidance, so it's very occasional and rare, mostly. And at last, I will give you some information what educational standard is needed to provide some kind of career counseling and guidance, and what are some kind of efforts to systemize these educational standards of career counselors. We don't have job title career counselors, we don't have educational program for career counselors, so it's quite a gray zone. It's not very clear how it could or should be done. So some attempts are made here. Croatian Employment Service in 2015 tried to make some kind of standards, quality standards for career educational guidance, and they defined it because they want to improve their service, what services they provide and who can provide different kind of services, how information between clients and experts exchange among each other, and they defined 3 levels of career counselors or guides or advisors, let's say. The lowest level is some kind of job advisor. The job advisor has knowledge of the labor market and some basic knowledge of career counseling, and this job advisor provides basic career vocational guidance and information based on interviews, maybe some online tests, and documentations like CVs or etc. These job advisors could work in CSOC centers, for instance, or they can work with unemployed people, but they don't really provide career guidance in this narrow sense. If needed, they refer clients to additional career guidance, to specialized career advisors or to career counselors. Special career advisor is something that is exclusively related to work of CES, like an institution, because they work a lot with these people with disabilities, special needs, some special groups like unemployed or people who want to start their own business, etc. So they need some kind of specially educated career advisors, that they have some competencies related to labor market and educational options, and they also need to have some basic knowledge in counseling, but they are still not career counselors. They're more like job advisors, specialized for some target group of people. And they have career counselors, and they're mostly psychologists. I think it's exclusively psychologists, in fact, because they can use tools, instruments for personality assessment, ability assessment, etc. So they work by the ethical principles of the profession, and that they are well educated to do this job. However, we still don't have any specialized study on the university level for this career counseling and guidance. We only have some kind of specialized studies in work and organizational psychology in general, so they still need some additional education to do this job properly. Another initiative on the European level, I don't know if you're informed of this, but it's called the NICI. It's NICE, we said it, Network for Innovation and Career Guidance and Counseling in Europe. It's in fact an academic network. They try to standardize these professional roles of career guidance professionals, and they by now provided some kind of memorandum of job titles and classification of educational training needed for a different type of career guides and counselors. You can find it online also in more details. I will just give you a short overview what kind of professional functions or titles they have in this this system. So all these career guidance professionals are somehow divided in 6 roles, let's say 5 or 6 roles, depends. But the first is the career educator. If he supports people or she in developing their career management competencies, career guidance informator and assessment expert. He supports assessing personal characteristics and needs and connect this personality traits and interests to labor market. In a way, he provides some kind of advice related to the personal environment fit. The career counselor, so it's the highest level of this free type of support. He supports individuals deeply to understand his situation, to make changes in their career path, and he also uses all these tools, instruments, and can provide full career guidance or counsel. This free type of counselors work with people directly, and there is also free kind of career guidance counselors workers that are recognized in this classification. They are green here on this slide. The program and service manager, he ensures quality of career counseling provided at different organizations. The social system intervener and developer supports change of system of career guidance and counseling in different ways, mostly related to policies. And career guidance and counseling professional is the one who provide some new values, ethical standards, new tools, illustration, and it's kind of researcher mostly in this area. That's how this initiative of NICE define these professional roles. You can find more on their websites. And this is the last thing I want to say in this presentation. And maybe it's time for your questions and some comments, please.
Drodzy Państwo, zapraszamy Państwa do zadawania pytań poprzez czat. Z mojej strony ja chciałam bardzo tutaj podziękować zarówno Pani Ani, jak i Panu Toniemu za tak wyczerpującą, ciekawą prezentację. Teraz Państwa prosimy o zadawanie pytań, które z pewnością zrodziły się w trakcie słuchania tych dwóch prezentacji, zarówno dotyczącej systemu doradztwa zawodowego w Polsce, którą to prezentację prezentowała Pani Anna Dukowska, nasz powiatowy konsultant do spraw doradztwa zawodowego, jak również Pan Toni prezentował tutaj system doradztwa zawodowego w Chorwacji. Po części pytań zaprosimy oczywiście Państwa na przerwę kawową 15-minutową, a po przerwie Pani Iwa będzie kontynuowała i przedstawi nam kolejną prezentację dotyczącą systemu doradztwa zawodowego w Chorwacji. Tymczasem czekamy na pytania. Zachęcam Państwa do zadawania pytań poprzez czat. Dobrze, widzę, że pojawiło się pierwsze pytanie. Czy uczeń po 14 roku życia, który wybrał szkołę jednoroczną, ma szansę na kontynuację nauki i jaką?
Okay, I'm mute, just a second.
Chyba nie słychać tłumaczenia.
Tak, właśnie już teraz poprosiłam o...
Okay, now you can hear me.
Thank you.
Okay. In fact, it's usually 2 years training. It's training usually for very low level, low entry jobs, like, for instance, cook assistant, okay, something like that. Okay, so after that they can, if they finish this kind of 2-year education, then they can pass some exams, some differences to go to the 3rd level, and then they can again pass some exams to go to the 4th level, 4th grade, and it's quite difficult for them. Usually these kind of schools are for pupils with some special needs, or maybe with not so low school achievers, some learning difficulties, lower competencies in general. It's not easy. It's this choice is not. It's very rare. There's just not much occupations are on this level, so it's very special situation. That's not so common. The more common is if you go to the wet school on 3 years wet school. That's more common. Then you have to pass some exams to get the 4th level, 4th year. It's possible, not easy, but it's possible.
Dziękujemy. Kolejne pytanie. Jakie najmocniejsze strony systemu doradztwa dotyczące doradztwa zawodowego podkreśliłby Pan jako godne przeniesienia na grunt w innych państwach?
Okay, I think it's still good that it's under umbrella of Croatian Employment Service in a way. And it provides some kind of free of charge fair counseling, and it's provided to all. I think the good thing is that psychologists at schools are quite well educated to provide career counseling with little or very small additional education in this area. So I think it's a good starting position. Only thing that should be done is to employ more psychologists in schools. We don't have now psychologists in each school. So we have psychologists maybe around 60% of schools, more in elementary, less in secondary. So if we employ more psychologists in schools, then it's possible that they can provide high quality career counseling and guidance, because their initial level of education gives them good, solid ground for this. That's a good thing. Problem is because they have a lot of other job to do in schools, behavioral, educational problems, whatever. So they maybe don't have enough time. But it's still the problem of capacities, of staff capacities and employment of experts. So I think that we have a good starting point on the base of knowledge in this area. We have a good organizational starting point related to the long history and a lot of instruments, tools developed in Croatia to do so. We have very good online instruments. Iva will talk about it. We have a lot of online instruments available to all. We just need more people in schools and more time in schools for these activities.
Dziękuję. Kolejne pytanie. Do jakiego wieku istnieje obowiązek nauczania?
Elementary school only. There was some initiative to have a compulsory secondary education, but it does not pass politically. Now it's only still at the basic 8-year compulsory.
Kolejne pytanie dotyczące kształcenia się. Czy studia w Chorwacji są bezpłatne czy płatne?
State universities are free of charge mostly. Maybe there are some, if you are not, if you cannot enroll it, we have some limits, limited number of students, they can study free of charge. Then you have some small number of students, they can enroll the faculty with some kind of charging, but it's more or less after the year or two when they start to be regular students, then it's not charged anymore. So studying on private university, on public universities free of charge. We have also different private universities and it's paid.
Kolejne pytanie. Z jakich ciekawych narzędzi korzystają doradcy zawodowi w Chorwacji? Czy są jakieś nowoczesne platformy, z których uczniowie korzystają?
Okay, we have, I'd say, several different online platforms with different counseling tools, and it's free of charge and fully available. Iva will talk about it in details and present it to you.
Super. Kolejne pytanie. Czy studenci psychologii mogą w trakcie studiów specjalizować się w doradztwie zawodowym, czy dopiero na studiach podyplomowych lub kursach, warsztatach?
Okay. Let's say it like this. Bachelors are all the same. They have all the same program mostly. We have different universities that provide education in psychology, but they all have more or less the similar, or maybe more or less the same bachelor study. Then they have master study. It's there are some differences, but it's still mostly general. They have some modules relating to elective subjects, elective courses, but it's still more or less general. It's quite related to the standards, European standards for psychology. It's called, okay, we have on European level, to get a diploma of psychology, you need to fulfill some standards. You have to have a different number of courses that you have passed, and it's usually generalized. So we don't have such specialization at the master level. Then on the doctoral level, and special, it's called not like academic, but it's called like professional. We have professional after master's level, and then you have some kind of specialization in work and organizational psychology, not still in career counseling. So there are initiatives on universities, on one university in fact, to initialize the program of career counseling and guidance as a post-master level, like specialized to the study, but it's still not it's not working yet. It's still in process, and now you can have like you can work as a career counselor with a master's degree in psychology and some special education in this area through the workshops or whatever.
Kolejne pytanie. Ostatnio, czyli podczas ostatniego seminarium, pan Reinhold mówił, że w Niemczech uczniowie chętnie wybierają szkoły ogólnokształcące niż szkoły zawodowe. W Polsce borykamy się z podobnym problemem. Jak jest w Chorwacji i jak to wygląda statystycznie?
It's hard to say what they prefer. I can say you what is the balance between gymnasiums and vocational schools. Around 40% of students enroll gymnasiums and 60% enroll vocational schools. Do they prefer gymnasium? I will say it like this. Students with better grades in elementary school will go to gymnasium. So they prefer it somehow, but for better students, those who have lower marks, lower school grades, and have interest in different, more practical activities, or maybe they want to be employed in faster rate. They want to be employed after the 4 years. They prefer vocational training schools because the vocational schools give them some kind of job title, occupation. So I think that if we talk about prestige, level of prestige, gymnasiums are most prestigious educational form, but only 40% of students can go to gymnasium programs. But maybe I was not so clear. If you enroll 4-year vocational school, then you still have a good chance to go to the university level. So it's not so strictly. Mobility, this vertical mobility is possible even if you go to this 4-year vocational school. Yes, and like 60 or 70% of these kids go to vocational schools for 4-year, go to some kind, maybe not university level, but this polytechnic level, this professional level of university level, they can enroll and they enroll it.
Ostatnie pytanie w tej części naszego seminarium. Jak wygląda prestiż zawodu nauczyciela w Chorwacji? Czy młodzi ludzie chętnie wybierają ten zawód, jeśli chodzi o pracę nauczyciela?
Okay, I think it's like in Croatia, I think it's very similar to Poland. I don't know how it's Poland, but in the rest of East Europe, I don't think that it's not. Let's be clear, it's not so prestigious, and the pay level of teacher is not so high. But still, I don't think it's more like a call, less than a job. So if you want to be a teacher, you'll be, doesn't matter of pay.
Drodzy Państwo, bardzo dziękujemy za wszystkie pytania zadane w tej pierwszej części seminarium. Teraz zapraszamy Państwa na 15-minutową przerwę. Spotkamy się o godzinie 12. Tymczasem też również tutaj informacja dla tych z Państwa, którzy dołączyli w trakcie trwania seminarium, nasze dzisiejsze seminarium, jak i seminarium, które odbyło się w zeszłym tygodniu, jest realizowane w ramach projektu Karier Droga do kariery zawodowej, w ramach programu Ścieżki Współpracy, finansowanego w ramach Europejskiego Funduszu Społecznego. Drodzy Państwo, zapraszamy na 15-minutową przerwę. Do zobaczenia. No, 2 po 12. Do zobaczenia.
Przerwa chyba już się skończyła, tak? Ja wyłączyłam, Basia.
Tak.
To już się mogę rozłączyć, nie?
Witamy Państwa po przerwie. Cieszymy się, że zostali Państwo z nami. Teraz zapraszamy Państwa na drugą część naszego seminarium. W tej części pani Iwa będzie kontynuowała prezentację dotyczącą systemu doradztwa zawodowego w Chorwacji. Zapraszamy Panią Iwę. Pani Iwo, nie słyszymy Pani. Proszę o włączenie mikrofonu. O.
Okay. Hello.
Teraz słychać, tak.
Pleased to meet you here in this online webinar. So Toni has talked a little bit about some general systems that provide career counseling in Croatia, and I will a little bit focus more on some practices that we also have in Croatia. So my name is Iva Šverko. I'm employed at Ivo Pilar Institute of Social Sciences. I'm a psychologist, I'm a scientist, and for the last 20 years I work in the field of career guidance, basically in science, but also in some practice. So now I will share my screen, and please tell me if you see everything as it should be. Can you see my screen? That's okay?
Tak, widać, jest widoczny.
Okay. Okay, just a moment and I can make it bigger. Okay, so these are the topics that I would like to address in this short presentation. I will show some of our research findings that we have done in the field of vocational psychology. So I will focus on career development in adolescence and and show you some findings on crystallization of interest in this period of lifespan and development of career readiness. And I will also say a few words on risk and protective factors that can either foster or inhibit career development in adolescence. Then I will show you our online career counseling tool that is called Career Path. But prior to that, I will say a few words about online career counseling in general, some how can it be done and what are its effects, etc. And in the last part, I will focus on some career development workshops. I will also say a few words on these approaches in general, and then I will say something about our career development school program that we have in Croatia. And after everything of that, we can certainly talk about, you can ask some questions and we can maybe together draw some conclusions and so on. So as Toni and I are scientists, we have done several studies that have in focus career development in adolescents. And first of all, I would like to say something about crystallization of interest. So I think that maybe all of you, but maybe not everybody, are introduced to Holland's hexagonal model of interest, which postulates there are 6 types of people that can be grouped in 6 categories, which are realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional interests. So realistic are ones that like to work with their hands, and many of mechanics and certain and similar occupations belong to this group. Investigative are those who like to study, investigate, etc. So here are scientists and biologists, chemists, maybe medical doctors, etc. Artistic are well known. So these are people who like to do anything that is close to artistic expression. So all types of artistic occupations belong to this category. Social types are those who like to work with people, like psychologists, like teachers, etc. Enterprising are those that like managerial jobs, that are entrepreneurial, and so all kinds of managers and leaders, etc. belong to this category. And the last one, conventional ones, are those who like to work with numbers, who like to follow some strict procedure, and so many occupations that like financial analysis, like people, some clerks, etc. belong to this category. So Holland postulated that these 6 types of vocational interests are grouped in this kind of hexagon, and he developed some hypotheses that can be explored to see whether this model is okay or not. So Holland's model was studied many times before in many countries, and basically it was validated, not everywhere, but it was quite it has quite good evidence of its validity. So in Croatia, we have done plenty studies using Holland's theory. So in this table, you can see it has 18 rows because there are 18 different samples of respondents who have expressed their vocational interest using different inventories. So in the second column, you can see age of those respondents. So we have conducted studies on young adolescents, like those who are 11 or 12 years, then a little bit older, 13 and 14 years, etc. Following people in further adolescence, 14, 16, 18 years, etc. Still those who are basically on their studies, university, and on the last sample, where the approximate age is 37, there are people who were employed, so there are some, let's say, younger employees. So you can see on the third column that these are samples that are quite, some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger, but actually these are all quite correct samples. So how does the structure of vocational interest look like? So if people do have an idea about their vocational interests and their idea about how the world of work works, then their vocational interest should be very close to the Holland's model. So what we have done here, this is one slide where you can find several dots. These dots, there are 18 dots that represent the fit of the Holland's model to our samples. On the lowest line, here you can see these are samples, and they're at the age of our respondents. So the dots that are higher represent the better fit of the model. The dots that are lower represent a lower fit of the model. The value that it was calculated was correspondence index. That this dotted line, which is here presented, actually shows whether we can this fit consider as adequate or not. Everything that is above the line is quite okay. Everything that is below the line is not okay. So what we can see here, that in samples that are 16, 18, 20 or more years old, these respondents structure their vocational interests and the world of work in the way that it is expected by the theory. So we can say that at this age, the model, at this age, respondents have crystallized their vocational interests in the way that the theory says it should be. But in the samples that are younger, you can see that the fit of the model is quite lower. So it is really questionable whether at this point students have structured vocational interests as they should have. So if I come back here, you can see that the age of 14, which Toni was saying that this is the end of elementary school, which is the point where our students make some first crucial vocational decisions because they choose high school, which can be very focused on some subjects and on some field of work. So at that age, it is quite questionable whether respondents or young adolescents have really structured vocational interests. So according to our studies, different 18 studies, it is seen that interests crystallize at the end of the primary school, at the age of 14. So this is the key point when the interests start to crystallize as they should. So maybe it is really too early to expect from our students finishing primary school to actually choose the secondary school in a way that is really adequate. So there are two things that we should think about. One is that it is important to foster the process of career development earlier, just to help our kids to focus on their interests and try to crystallize them as early as possible, so they can make some clear career goals and work towards them. The other thing that we should maybe think about also, but it is not on nobody of us in person, but it is really questionable if this existing schooling system is in accordance with children's career development. Maybe in general, we should think about if it is really okay for our pupils to ask them at the age of 14 to choose secondary school. So this is our first conclusion regarding career development in adolescence. There are another line of research that covers career readiness. Career readiness is actually a possibility or ability of young adolescents or anybody to make appropriate career decisions that are expected for them at a certain stage. So Donald Super is one of the most famous theoreticians in the field of career development. He has said that there are 8 different stages of career development. You can see the first one is called growth. The second one is exploration, then establishment, maintains, and decline. I will focus at the moment on the first two. The first one, which considers the childhood and actually the whole primary school. In that phase, it is expected from kids to turn towards the future, to think about what they like to do, when, where, and just first ideas about their autonomy in making career choices. According to Super, in the phase of exploration, which starts at 15 and lasts to 24, it is expected for kids to develop realistic self-concepts, to crystallize their interest in a fixed way, and then to try to experiment with different roles to find some places where they can meet their goals in the world of work and sector, etc. So if you see, the more crystallized interests are expected according to Super in this phase, and we are forcing our students to make career choices just as in between those phases. So this is again a question whether the age of 14 is really adequate for our pupils to make an important decision about the secondary school. So career readiness can be seen as an individual ability to cope with career construction tasks and to make career choices and to be and to have clear career interests. It can be measured or seen as some attitudes towards career and career choice. So affective component or attitudes means that somebody is thinking about that it is an important thing to do, that has an idea that he or she should do it. The cognitive component is actually having a lot of information about the world of work and educational programs. So you cannot decide anything if you do not have an idea what there is outside in the world of work. So it's necessary for kids to have both clear attitudes that it is important for them to do so, but also they have to be informed about everything that is going on for them. So there are a number of measures that belong to the umbrella term of career readiness. We can take, I will say here several words about information, having information about the world of work, about career adaptability, which is very new and well-known construct at the moment, about career decision making and some realization of career development tasks. So here, same as previously, there is a table that represents our studies that we have done in the field of career readiness. So there we have 7 studies on respondents of different ages, coming from those that have only 11 or 12 years to those who are at the end of the high school. And we have measured a number of constructs. For those 11, 12, 13, and 14 years old. These are all pupils in the primary school. We have measured their knowledge about the world of work. These people who are 15 and 19 years old, these are students coming from secondary or high schools. So we have measured number of constructs around like career adaptability, their vocational status and identity. We have measured their difficulties in making career decisions and some styles. How do they make career decisions? And we also measured some tasks they have maybe managed to achieve during their career development. So first, I would like to say a few words about those people who are actually in last grades of primary school. So we have covered, we have developed a test of occupational knowledge. This is one test that measures knowledge. So we have divided in 6 parts. In first part, we ask students or pupils about how much do they know about some fields of work, then about working conditions in different occupations, then about what is needed education for a certain occupation, and then what are important abilities of a worker in an occupation. We have also asked them to tell us about some important work tasks that are included in one of occupations, several occupations. And then we also ask them do they know the principles of choosing an occupation. So these were some short tasks, and they had to express their knowledge how some person should choose an occupation. So here you can see the total. There were 18 questions, 3 questions per each of those 6 groups, the total of 18 questions. And we have covered the sample in total of more than 1,000 respondents that were coming from different grades of primary school. They were 11, 12, 13, and 14 years old. And there were also quite equal numbers, number of boys and girls. So what you can see in this graph here on the right side is that as the pupils get older, from 11, 12, 13, and 14 years, they have a little bit greater knowledge about the world of work. However, that knowledge is not so big. You can see here that the total of 18 questions means that the maximum number, the maximum score is 18. But in the last grade of primary school, at the moment when they have to choose their secondary school, they basically know just a half of answers, which is not good. Also, you can see is that girls, which are presented by the dotted line, have a little bit greater knowledge about the world of work than boys. Also, this difference becomes bigger in the last grade of the primary school. And there is also one interesting thing, is that you can see that by entering the last grade of their primary school, they actually have a context that forces them to acquire more information. So they do acquire more information. They try and they succeed in getting more information about the world of work. What does that mean in general for practice? First of all, it is important to know that context will encourage students to acquire more information on the world of work and educational programs, etc. So it is important for us to provide the context that will foster getting more information more earlier. So it is necessary if our kids have to choose an occupation or a secondary school education, etc. at the age of 14. It is important to help them to try and to get more information more earlier, not in the last grade, but maybe at the age of 12. So there are some career development programs through which we can work together with our students to help them to acquire more information earlier, so they can be better informed at the last grade when they have to make their first career decision. So we think that school is the right place for that. It can easily be done there. So we can help them. We can tell them, you can find the information on those pages. You can talk with those people. We can help them. How can they find information? But we can also help them by facilitating their career development, which will also bring them in the phase that they can get their information by themselves. We can teach them how can they get better informed. So this is the importance of school, which is always, I think, which can always be seen in all our studies. So other aspects of career maturity are career adaptability at first. So Marks Vikas presented career construction theory in last 10-20 years, 20 actually, and he defined career adaptability as psychosocial resources for responding on career tasks, transitions, and traumas. So it is very similar concept as career readiness, but he postulated as career adaptability because of the constantly changing of world of work. And today these changes are really unpredictable, not unproductive, as I see here, but unpredictable, because nowadays everybody has some contacts that they are just in time. So there are many of project employments and so on. It is very hard to get a tenure which will last for long days. So it is always necessary to try to find some other positions, to try to find another occupation, to construct our careers by ourselves. So he said that career adaptability actually is combined from several facets. One of it is career concern or focus on future, an idea that our future is important and that I have to work towards it. The other one is career control, or my personal belief that I have control in my hands, that I can make my career to be as I want it to be. Another one is career curiosity, so my willingness to explore several options and to find what is best for me. And the last one is career confidence, the feeling that I can do it. So a person who is adaptable, according to Marks Vikas, has all those four facets very expressed. Another construct that also reflects career readiness is the lack of career decision-making difficulties. Ita Margati is a professor from University of Jerusalem, and he is in the field of career decision-making difficulties for years. And he says that career decision-making difficulties aggravate career decision-making. So he postulated there are a number of career decision-making difficulties that aggravate career decision-making. He first said that there are some difficulties that are present prior to engaging in the process of career decision-making. This is basically the lack of readiness to make a decision. It can be a lack of motivation or the indecisiveness or some dysfunctional beliefs. There are also some career decision-making difficulties that emerge during the process. This is the lack of information. Just a moment, I have to, okay. This is the lack of information about the process, about career decision-making process, lack of information about myself. What is this that I like most, etc. There is a lack of information about occupations. I do not know anything or not enough about the world of work. And maybe it can also be a lack of information about ways of obtaining information. I don't know where can I get the information I need. During the process also arise some inconsistent information, which are internal conflicts and external conflicts. Here is written, but it fell out, some disbelief in personal perception about my strategies of career decision-making. So all those career decision-making difficulties, if they are pronounced, a person cannot make career decision as he or she should at the moment when it's when it comes to making some career decisions. So also like the model of Mark Savikas, the model of Ita Markati is also firmly confirmed in numerous cultures and also in Croatia as well. The last thing that I would like to mention here is another construct developed in the framework of career construction theory by Mark Savikas. This is a degree, as he says, this is a degree of vocational development. Mark Savikas said that in order to progress during the vocational development, we have to have we have to crystallize our self-concept. We have to know who we are and what we like. Then we have to do some occupational exploration. We have to make career decisions. We have to pass through adequate education so that we can implement ourselves in the world of work. At last, we have to really come to that world of work in the moment, at the place where we would like to. So these are actually three aspects about, that talk about career readiness. And here I will show you our data about career readiness. So we have measured career adaptability, career decision-making difficulties, and realization of career construction tasks in samples of students that are at the end of the elementary school and the end of the high school. So what you can see is that as the time goes by, as people get older, they get less career decision-making difficulties. They realized more career construction tasks. They also have a little bit greater career adaptability. So during the period that passes from the end of the primary school to the end of the high school, actually our pupils get greater and greater career readiness. These are not big effects, but the smallest effect is observed for career adaptability, which is not surprising because career adaptability is also contextual. It considers career development, but these are also some stable psychological traits. So our findings say an important note that both career adaptability, forming of career identity, and working on career decision-making difficulties, we can do during the process of career development. We can help adolescents to gain better career adaptability, to develop better career identity, to help them with the realization of their career development tasks. We can also help them to overcome career decision-making difficulties. Everything is possible, again, in schools, because there are all children there. You can approach anybody. You can see them as a school counselor, a school psychologist, as a teacher, or a class master, if this is a term. All of those people can see those students and can maybe see at the right moment if somebody is facing some problems. So school can help. We can provide them nurturing context, and we can encourage their career development. Another line of studies in our research is work on protective and risk factors in career development. We have studied literature in this field, and we have had an idea that some protective and risk factors, which can either inhibit or foster career development, may be grouped in personal, relational, and situational factors. Personal factors are psychological traits, like some basic traits, like extroversion, conscientiousness, future orientation, optimism, flexibility, resilience, self-efficacy, cognitive capacity, school achievement, general health. So people who are more extroverted, who are more conscientious, who are better oriented towards the future, who are more optimistic and flexible and resilient, and who have greater self-efficacy, who have better cognitive capacities, better school achievement, and even better health, they all have better start in career development process compared to people who are not, as I mentioned earlier. So relational factors are a number of social influences. So people who have better influence of parents, peers, and society as a whole, who have better support, whose micro environment is more involved and less interferes in their process of career development, they have better start as well. And there are also situational factors or contextual differences like socioeconomic status, some educational employment opportunities in a place of residence, etc., may also provide either protective or risky role in somebody's career development. So we have to study our idea. We have conducted focus groups with high school students and university students, school psychologists, career counselors from CES, some career development specialists, etc. So we conducted 10 focus groups. We transcribed them and said what has to be done when working on focus groups. And these are our main findings. I will show here just main findings because of the time. So what came out in all of those stories? People said that cognitive capacities and academic achievement strongly determines adolescent career choices, and that the belief, not only their capacities, but the belief in personal capacities is crucial for accomplishment of career goals. We also we also revealed that career choice and career transition makes a great stress for adolescents in high school. We haven't been aware of that previously. And we also saw that this stress reduces the motivation even to choose a career and to work towards career goals. We have found that particular stressors are fatalistic beliefs, like now when I have to choose a career, I will do it, it will be my career for the whole life, which is certainly not true. And it is necessary to study. It's also not necessary to study and to go to the university studies. So we also revealed that parents, peers, and school climate plays a big role in adolescent choices, and that socioeconomic factors and lack of educational opportunities limit career choices. So when placed in our small model, if it can be considered a model that covers personal, relational, situational factors that influence the career development in adolescents, we have seen that among the personal factors, the most prominent ones were cognitive capacities and academic achievement, self-efficacy, resilience. From relational factors, people have stressed the importance of social support. And among the situational factors, we have heard from people that socioeconomic status is maybe very unfair factor in the course of career development. So again, the importance of school. People who work in school can easily recognize individuals that are exposed to risk, and they can approach them and help them in the process of career construction. These are people with low grades, students with low grades and who feel incompetent. These are those who are very stressed by final examination. These are those who do not have supportive social environment. These are those who have worse living conditions. So these kids will likely have narrower career choices and worse career outcomes. So in school, it is possible to detect them and to approach them. And this is really very important because people who are exposed to risk factors are also very likely that they will not come and say, please help me, because they do not have the conditions and the environment that will encourage them to do so. When you approach kids and say, "Oh, come on, who will come to see me in my office, and we will talk about your future occupation," most likely they will be the most conscientious kids, those with good grades, those who are extroverted, etc., and not those who are not. So this is not a school provides a place where you can approach everybody. So this is very important. That can be actually an act of reducing inequalities. We also think that it's a path to more just and inclusive society. So we think that school can do it. So okay, these were our our research findings, and I will show you a little bit more about our online career counseling tools and a little bit more about some workshops that we also have in Croatia. So online career counseling systems were previously computer systems. Today they're online, and their purpose is basically to give career advice about appropriate career at a certain point when people have to make their first career or some career decisions. They provide information about the world of work and about educational programs, and they can also give some instructions how to choose a career and what are some good steps in career development. What is good is that they're available in time and space, which I mean that in regions where there are no test centers, where there are no, which are not equipped with a number of psychologists who can help people in their career development, there is always internet, and so people can come in sites and see what do they interested in. They are suitable for different kinds of administrations. It can be individual, a person and a client and a counselor. It can be group of clients and a counselor, but it can also be a self-administration without a counselor at all. They are affordable. They can be fully free of charge. Many studies have explored the efficacy of such systems, and it has been observed that they really help with the clarity of career choice. They reduce career indecision and enhance self-efficacy in career decision making. They help with crystallization of career identity, and they enhance and foster career maturity. And that also they enhance satisfaction with chosen career. So there are many of studies that have been exploring the efficacy of computer-assisted career guidance systems. In Croatia, we have 4 actually working and available online career guidance system. The first one was developed before the millennium. This was through one of the big projects that we were also working on. So this was the project from the Open Society Institute, and we have developed a number of tools that can help career counseling. So this is our first system. Then the other one, which is called karijernom. Znači, vodič kroz zanimanja is translated in English like e-careers, then karijernom, then e-usmjeravanja or e-guidance by CES, and then put career, I will talk, or career path, I will talk a little bit more about it at last. Who are the clients? Those who choose their career, either this is occupation or schools, so that can be adolescents, that can be adults, that can be unemployed people who are searching in some new opportunities. We have asked students at the end of the elementary school, at the end of the high school, do they choose some interest sites? So many do not use them at all, but those who use them either once or a few times or frequently are about 50% of all students. A little bit greater rate is observed at the end of the high school. So students really use those sites. But what is important to think about? Are these systems adequate for all clients, and should they be more simple? Do the clients of all ages can use them equally, or is this maybe better for the older ones? And how autonomous people should be to use those sites, and do they require some better cognitive capacities to go through them and understand their feedback, etc. So it is also important to know if we use such sites, do we really get better job outcomes, and are these systems fully adequate for elementary schools, etc. So these are some of our research topics that we are actually now involved to. We think that such sites are very good for the school context because they're accessible for all kids. The help during their administration can be provided. They can be administered either group or individual. There is always somebody at school with whom you can talk about your results if you do not fully understand them, etc. It can be also organized like a workshop where you can give tasks for students to fill out some inventories and get their results, and afterwards you can do some workshop and comment all of these results in the classroom. So there are different ways to approach to these sites. So our site, the career path, is a site, our last site that we have developed in 2017 through the project that was called Vocational Transition in Adults and Setting the Career Transition Model, which was funded by Croatian Science Foundation, and it is freely available to everybody. And the site actually measures number of psychological characteristics that are important in career decision-making process. So there are some measures of vocational interests, values, career maturity, and for each value, a client gets a feedback that states some advices, some gives back in information like what are your interests and what are your values and what level is your career maturity, but also gives some advice where appropriate what you can do to make something better for you. So this is the first page of our website, and I will show you later a little bit more about it. So who are the users? Users are elementary school students, high school students, university students, unemployed people, adults. It's fully free of charge. The registration is needed, which means that everybody who accesses the site have to make his personal account, and every inventory that he or she fills out remains an advice that he or she gets is accessible all the time. So if I fill out one questionnaire for 3 times, I can check all my advices for all of those 3 all of my 3 entries. So there are 9 inventories, and each inventory provides a related feedback. All of those inventories, some of those are ours and some of those are from distinguished scholars, and we asked them to give us the permission to use the site, and they gave us because the site is free of charge. So everybody, they actually thought that this is a very good idea to have such a site. So they gave us the right to use their instruments in this put career or career path. So there is pictorial and descriptive interest inventory that measure interests, personal globe inventory from Professor Tracy, also measure of interest, value scale that measures work values. There are also some measures of career readiness, one that developed by Toni and me, then career adaptability scale from Mark Savikas, then vocational identity status assessment from Mark Savikas and Eric Parfelli, and there are also some one measure of test of occupational knowledge that I previously mentioned that we have developed, and also 2 measures by Ita Margati that measure career decision-making difficulties and career decision-making styles. Each feedback on each of those measures addresses the level of gives a description of personal characteristics of respondents, but also gives some advice what should we do in order to make better career choices, to encourage our career readiness, etc. So we also ask people, respondents, to tell us whether are they actually satisfied with their results they got. So we ask them for their feedback on our feedback, which serves us for further evaluation of our site and further development. So we have asked them how satisfied are they with their measures on career path. So these are first pictorial and descriptive interest inventory, personal globe inventory, value scale. This is our measure of career readiness. This is a measure of career adaptability, the vocational identity status assessment, test of occupational knowledge, career decision-making difficulties, and career decision-making styles. So what you can see, the blue bar represents how well do the results describe you. So a little bit less than 4. I think that it should maybe be a little bit more, but a mark around 4 is not so bad. How understandable is the advice that is presented to you? It is understandable. How useful is the presented advice for your career planning? Also between 3 and 4. So these are the estimated satisfaction with measures on career path. At the moment, we try to make career path even more adequate for younger students, because through our first project, it was meant to be primarily for secondary school students. But now we have another project, which is now called Free Career Choice, also funded by Croatian Science Foundation. And in this project, we would like to adapt Croatian career path to be more suitable for younger students' needs. So to be more clear, more easy to fill inventories out and so on. We would like to test whether the application should be self-application or individual or in groups, and to find whether some kids do some kinds of application. Maybe for some kids, regardless of their age, and self-application would be good. But maybe for some kids should maybe need some help with a professional and so. So we think that is an excellent tool for school psychologists and teachers to work with students. So it can be implemented at schools, and it is scientifically proven, and it is free to use. So we are encouraging school psychologists and pedagogists in Croatia to use career path and to help their students to choose their careers using these instruments. So this is just to show you how does it look like. These are 9 inventories, and if you click or point your mouse on any of those, they open an inventory. I will not show you now because it is in Croatia. I think it will just take us time. In some point, we're thinking about making it in English also. So maybe some maybe collaborative project to be interesting. I don't know. So this is actually a graph that represents person interests according to the Holland's model. So this is the feedback a person can see. So these are 6 interest types, and the red ones are those that are most prominent, and here are artistic interests and investigative interests. So a person can click on each of those bars and get some description of their interests and some suitable occupations, etc. And if a person has several times responded to a questionnaire, like here, this person has responded to pictorial and descriptive interests inventory for 3 times, at once in 2020, once in 2019, and once in 2018. So all of those entries are here, and that person can see the feedback that she got in all of those 3 administrations, which can be good because you can also think about how do we change, how much we change, and what were our ideas a year or 2 ago. Okay, this is I have showed this slide. So this is my last part and the shortest one. It's a part about career development workshops that foster career readiness. When conducting career development workshops, we basically have to ask ourselves several basic questions. First of all, how big effects of such workshops we can expect? What makes a successful career intervention? How long a career intervention should last? And on what outcomes can we expect the greatest effects? So here are some results of some scientific studies in that field. What was observed that effects of such career workshops are small to medium, but it means that there are effects. There are not big effects, but there are present. So they were observed in numerous studies. The greatest effect sizes were related to career maturity, vocational identity, and career-related skills. That means then when a person goes through some workshop, then the most prominent changes will be seen in those constructs like career maturity, gaining vocational identity, and acquiring career-related skills that enhance our career decision-making process. There is also one important study that try to describe what are successful interventions that have to be combined when thinking about such workshops. They have considered that it is important to have some exercises, some homework activities, that such a workshop should also incorporate some individualized interpretations of certain personality and career-related traits, and also feedback related to that, and that it is important to provide people with information how they can acquire some work-related information. It is important exposure to models and to bring attention to build support for career choices and plans. And also the question about the length of such interventions. It was observed that neither not too short, not too long interventions are the best ones, because the effectiveness of intervention is growing rapidly with the first session, and the peak is experienced in the fourth and fifth session. And then there is a decline in efficiency. They are affected, but not so much. So maybe an intervention of 7, 8 sessions, which depends certainly on the content of sessions, is maybe the optimal one. So we have in Croatia career development school program, which was based on the programs exploring future options and a focus on the future, which were developed by Nancy Perry and Zarko Anzant. We have translated and adapted for Croatian students in this project that was in 1999, and we got all of the approvals from ministries, etc., to use it in the primary schools. So these are 2 manuals, 2 books that are structured in the same way. One is intended to be for elementary school students, and the other one is meant to be for the high school students. And each of these manuals has 3 parts and 12 exercises per each part. So it altogether makes 36 workshops, which can tap 36 academic weeks, or it can be also used as during several years from time to time. It depends on capacities of the schools. So the first part covers the self-knowledge, or it responds to the question, who I am. These are 12 workshops, both for younger and the older adolescents, that cover gaining an insight in personal preferences and personal traits that are related to career. The second part is called career and occupational exploration, or taps the question, where do I go? Then again, 12 workshops for elementary and for high school students. So this is the part where students explore the world of work and think about where they can actually try to find their way further, etc. And the last one is career planning, or how do I get there, which also considers 12 workshops of making plans, making decisions, etc. So each workshop contains a short overview, specific duration, objectives, materials, precise instructions. There are also suggested questions for discussion after each exercise. So there is very easily to conduct these workshops in the classroom. A teacher or a psychologist or a pedagogist just has to go through all of the steps that are written there, and everything is considered. So students use some student portfolios to collect their everything they to collect all of their entries they have, and the materials they have collected during the workshop. There is also presented an inventory of vocational development, which can be applied at the beginning and at the end, so the students can see how do they progress during their vocational development, which is also very motivating. There is also a future plan, a plan for future career plan that they have to conduct at the end of the workshop, and they then specify their personal goals that they would like to achieve and some steps that they have to do in order to achieve that goals. And there is a parent's guide or 4 pages brochure that can be conducted, that can be printed and delivered to parents, because not do all parents know how can they help their their kids during the course of career development. So these are just the first pages. In Croatian they are called Razmisli o budućnosti and usredotoči se na budućnost. They're available for download on our page Career Path in the PDF version, so it is very easily to have them and to apply them in the classrooms. So Toni and our colleagues have conducted an evaluation of this workshop. They have conducted 8 workshops for a group of students, and they have measured their career degree of vocational development at the beginning and at the ending of these workshop sessions. They also had another group of students for which they have measured the degree of vocational development at the first time point, and then again at the end. But this control group has not gone through the workshops like the first experimental group did. So what they have observed, that for the experimental group, which is here presented with an orange line, they had a very significant decrease of the problem that is called lack of information. So those who have gone through the 8 workshops of Career and School Development Program have actually gained some information, and they perceive their lack of information. They perceive the lack of information actually better and smaller. They also have observed the greater career readiness. So at the end of the workshops, their career readiness has became better. So these are some information that suggests that the usage of career development school program actually works. So we suggest that it is really important to provide career counseling in schools, as pupils can be reached there, including those who are exposed to risk. There are some online interventions that can be used to foster career development. There is also career development workshops that also work. So we have several useful materials, all free of charge. We hope that in recent times their application will be more pronounced in schools, and we also hope that in recent times we will develop another more of those tools to make them also available. So this is just a short overview of our work in this era, in this domain, and also which shows you what do we have in Croatia and what still has to be done. So thank you for all of you for listening, and I'm here now to all of your questions. I'm really happy to give you an answers on everything that I know, but so please do. I will stop sharing now we can maybe talk better. Okay.
Drodzy Państwo, zapraszamy Państwa do zadawania pytań Pani Iwie poprzez czat. Pytanie pierwsze. W jaki sposób docieracie Państwo ze swoją ofertą bezpośrednio do uczniów? Czy prowadzicie Państwo szkolenia dla nauczycieli, psychologów, by ci zapoznawali uczniów z możliwościami planowania swojej ścieżki edukacyjnej i zawodowej dostępnymi w internecie?
We do it in several ways. One is the initiative of Euro Guidance, which has Toni talked about. We conduct 3 or 4 seminars in a year for school psychologists, school teachers, and school pedagogists. And there we present our websites, and we hope that then later those people go in their schools and talk about these instruments, use them, and also show them to students. We also teach on the university, and there we present our pages there. So for the future psychologists, they will have a knowledge. Also in our scientific work, we are also focused always on some practical aspects of our studies, and then the end of our presentations on the congresses and conferences, we mentioned our sites, and these are the ways.
Kolejne pytanie. W jaki sposób realizują Państwo doradztwo zawodowe w dobie koronawirusa w wymiarze szkolnym?
This is a hard question, because during pandemics there are really problems in schools, because the capacities are really, people are having many tasks. School psychologists have many tasks that are related to pandemics, etc. And some of the kids do not go to school, and so on. But online sites are available regardless of pandemics. Then at the moment in Croatia, all schools are on site, not online. If from time to time there is a need to close a class, not a school, but at the moment schools are going on. But online tools are available regardless.
Kolejne pytanie. Warsztaty rozwoju zawodowego, optymalna ilość od 7 do 8. W jakim czasie są realizowane w roku? Czy długość jednostki warsztatowej to 45 minut?
Sorry, can you please repeat it?
Warsztaty rozwoju zawodowego, optymalna ilość od 7 do 8. W jakim czasie w roku są realizowane z tego? I czy długość jednostki warsztatowej to 45 minut?
Aha.
Panią Joannę, która zadała to pytanie, bardzo proszę o uzupełnienie tego pytania.
From my personal point of view, I think it should be start as earlier as possible. So maybe at the age of 11 or 12, several workshops a year, and raising that number till the age of 14. So maybe these are in Croatia 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade of primary school. I think that workshops should be done in each of those grades. So maybe several, maybe in the 5th grade 5 workshops, and then in the 8th grade 7 workshops, 8 workshops. I don't know. Maybe 7th and the 8th grade are the most had to be the most focused on this. But I think that it should be done. It should be started earlier, like in the 5th grade, at the age of 11. And 45 minutes. Yeah, that fits to the class.
Bardzo dziękuję. Tutaj w imieniu naszych uczestników. Drodzy Państwo, czy mają jeszcze Państwo pytania do Pani Iwy? Czekamy na ostatnie pytania. Jesteśmy kilka minut po czasie. Dziękujemy, że Państwo z nami zostali. Chyba nie ma już pytań ze strony naszych uczestników. Tak, mamy tutaj informacje od Pani Magdy, że bardzo interesujące wyniki badań i analiz. Dobrze, drodzy Państwo, w takim razie bardzo Państwu dziękuję w imieniu naszego całego zespołu projektowego za udział w dzisiejszym seminarium. Tych z Państwa, którzy byli z nami tydzień temu, kiedy omawiany był system doradztwa zawodowego w Niemczech, również bardzo dziękujemy za uczestnictwo. Mamy nadzieję, że podobało się Państwu seminarium prowadzone w dniu dzisiejszym, jak i tydzień temu. Zapraszamy do śledzenia dalszych działań, które będą realizowane w ramach projektu Karier, a Droga do kariery zawodowej na stronie CKU Sopot www.ckusopot.pl. Życzymy Państwu miłego dnia i dziękujemy za aktywny udział w dzisiejszym spotkaniu.
Ja
Dziękujemy.
jeszcze też pozwolę sobie na takie słowo końcowe. Oprócz strony ckusopot.pl też wszelkie informacje o tym, co robimy w Sopocie, jakie działania podejmujemy, znajdują się na fanpage'u Sopockiej Sieci Doradztwa Zawodowego. Zachęcamy do polubienia nas, wtedy będziemy mogli zostać w bieżącym kontakcie i też jeszcze raz bym chciała na koniec podkreślić, te osoby, które są zainteresowane tym, co robimy w Sopocie, zapraszamy do kontaktu na stronie ckusopot.pl w zakładce Doradztwo Zawodowe. Znajdziecie Państwo wszystkie informacje, takie poszerzone, te, które przedstawiałam w prezentacji, jak również jest do pobrania nasz sopocki model, także zachęcam serdecznie do przyglądania się temu, co robimy. Bardzo dziękuję ze swojej strony, dziękuję koleżankom i kolegom z kraju i z zagranicy za tą współpracę.
Tak, dziękujemy. Dziękujemy. Naprawdę dzisiejsze spotkanie było bardzo ciekawe i mam nadzieję, że Państwo również cieszą się tym, że mogli Państwo w nim dzisiaj wziąć udział. Także bardzo dziękujemy wszystkim prelegentom za dzisiejsze prezentacje.
Do widzenia.
Do widzenia.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.